Hi. Well, in direct comments on your question, one thing that is being done, and I see several members of the committee here, is there's a statewide program available, as I'm sure many of you know, to end homelessness as we know it by 2020. And Olmsted County has put together a very aggressive plan to deal with the homeless issue with that goal in mind. However, it is a little light on dealing with the youth homeless, and we started to address that at our last meeting, so hopefully we'll keep that on the front burner. But I guess, again, regarding the question, nobody was born homeless. So I think to solve the problem, the first thing we should be looking at is how do we get them back in the home if there is a home? I mean, why did they leave in the first place? If they're in a foster home, certainly there ought to be some kind of transition to transition them out of the foster home into some other kind of housing. And my last question, if it is a question, is where are these people staying now? I mean, if there are 200 in Rochester, where are they?
I'm going to let somebody on the panel possibly address that.
I just have some data on reasons that kids do leave home. This isn't all the reasons. Some of it is conflict with parents or kids wanting to make their own decisions. But 39% report that at least one adult in their home will not tolerate the youth's presence. 24% talk about alcohol or drug use by a parent. Neglect. Adults in the household do not attend to the youth's basic needs, food, shelter, paying attention to their education, getting them up in the morning to go to school, and criminal or drug activity by someone else in the household. That's at 19%. Sometimes the family doesn't have housing, period. There isn't a home to get them back into. The whole family is without housing. So I think Wendy did make the point that there's no one size fits all. Each child and each family's circumstances are different, and I think that's why it's so hard to get a handle on it.
I'm going to actually move on to the next question. Not that this is not important to finish this discussion, but I want to make sure we get to some of the other questions on here. And if you haven't gotten your question fully answered, please put it on the note card, and we will be sending out some information after the forum as well.
And if you're somebody that is sitting there, really has a comment to make, if we get to the end and we have a little bit of time, please let us know too. We may have some time there to stick something in. What do you see, this is directed to Corinne, what do you see as the gaps that exist in the services that are currently being provided to homeless youth?
Well, I posed this question to the homeless response team because they're more the experts than I. And some of the responses that I got back were shelter for people who are under age 18, housing, subsidies and housing to serve homeless youth, landlords who are willing to work with housing homeless youth, access to emergency food and cash and health benefits, a quicker way to get people onto those programs, employers who are willing to work with youth, service funding. I think one of the things that we have learned in the adult services world is that you can house people, but their success in staying housed is really minimal if you don't provide supportive services. And we struggle, all of us, all of the providers struggle with finding support service dollars. Oftentimes we can subsidize somebody in an apartment, but we can't necessarily provide the support that they need to remain there. Medical and mental health services, access to contraception, education about STDs was one of the things that came up from the homeless response team. So, and I'm sure that the list goes on. I see hands going up. Help me, folks. Help me, team.
With all of those services that teens and families need, if my thought has been, just listening to everyone here, if we put it under one roof, if we have a phone number to call, okay, and there, or a door to walk in and say, this is what's going on here in Rochester, this is what I'm doing, you know, I don't feel good, I need medical care, what do I do? If they signed, if we started a committee or something, they could sign their name and have access. We could pick up the phone and call Corrine or call Wendy. Hey, you guys, this is what's going on. This is who's here. What do you think? Let's brainstorm. That way we have a one-stop shop, essentially, which I think would work. That's
And I can interject that that was one of our goals as LGR, and that's one of the reasons why we're collecting contact information from everybody that's here that's willing to give it, is to have, hopefully, to some degree, that one-stop shop of who's doing what and where. And so hopefully if you can take the ball and run with that, that would be great. Teresa, go ahead.
I think that would actually be awesome to have just one place to go, because I remember going to the government center. I mean, going to the government center, going to the courthouse, just hopping all around Rochester, just trying to find something.
Yeah.
And again, I haphazardly found Link. I don't remember how I found it, but it was a miracle in my mind.
I was thinking of this actually when you were talking earlier, is that that's one of the struggles I think that those of us who are homeless service providers, is that we really hate sending people this direction and then they get sent someplace else and they get some sense. We see that, and we don't want to send people on a goose chase either.
It's just like a chain reaction, and then you just get lost.
Exactly.
I don't know if any of you are familiar with YouthLink up in the Twin Cities. I know you guys with LGR talk to the Bridge folks. YouthLink has a great model for a drop-in center for kids who need access to medical care, housing, a job, mental health services. YouthLink is a big program, and they also have housing for kids. We're maybe not there at this point, but there are models out there for a one-stop shop drop-in center to get that kind of information.